Hey, what is up, my fellow parents? And hello to you, my fellow sideline parents. You've got kids who are into sports. They're out there on the baseball field, they're on lacrosse, volleyball, they're playing football on that soccer field, that little league field. Really fun seeing your kids out there grinding and competing. And you're cheering them on. You're sitting in your chair from Costco. You're bringing the oranges. You're the soccer mom. You got the flags. You're cheering them on. Woo! Your kid is out there having fun, making memories, getting off a screen, living it up. Oh my gosh, being a sports parent can be so fun and so emotional. The ups and downs of the competition and all the vibes and what you're going through. But as we are going to talk about here today, there is another side of that coin. It is, and seeing our kids on the sports field can bring out a lot of us, a lot of our own drama, a lot of our own fears, our own ego, our own selfishness. And we want to make it a really important episode with a very special guest that's very near and dear to my heart. But Jordan, this is an important topic, isn't it, man?
I mean, there's been so many times, especially with the advancement of social media, looking at like parents fighting on the football sidelines, like
Oh
the
gosh.
parents of competing teams going at it, or them dissing referees because the referee may have made a semi, okay call, and now
Yeah.
the referees are in fear of maybe getting hit or getting stuff thrown at them, and it's like it just reminds me of like the second latest Batman movie when Joker's hanging upside down, he's kind of waiting, and then he says,
Mm.
"Why so serious? Like, why are our parents so serious when you're at an
Jeez.
8-year-old's baseball game?"
Oh
Like the
gosh.
whole point of this, I thought, was for them to like build character, have
Yeah.
other, important figures in their life, like coaches to push them. And yet we're out here raising the bar so high that, they're never
Jeez.
going to excel. And so
Uh,
now they're going to be frustrated, and that frustration is going to come out at home. And we're just going to create a living situation that's terrible. And the reason why this topic came up is I was talking to a buddy from Montana, shout out to Curtis.
What's up,
And
Curtis?
he was giving me some perspective of like what it's like for these kids trying to fill their parents shoes and follow their
Mm,
footsteps and
yeah.
fill that shoe. It's like we failed as our own athletes when we were kids, and we're trying to put our kids in our shoes to make them what we couldn't become. And the ultimate
Mm, yeah.
outcome of this is creating a poor sportsmanship,
Yep. Yep.
fighting, and then the kids are just they're becoming more stressful. And I really wanted to advance the topic on this because I thought it was very enlightening, and I think a lot of us parents need to just sit back, chill, and let kids be kids.
Easier said than done. Easier said than done, man. This is why we brought in an expert on this topic. This is our first guest we've ever had. And when Jordan and I were talking, we're like, let's bring in somebody who really has been on the scene. So, guys, special guest Rick Steen graduated from Chico State, which is in Northern California in 1968. Rick played baseball, rugby, and football in college. I guess, okay, that tells you a little bit about his athletic ability in college. Moved to this Northern California um, area and coached at this school called San Ramon Valley High School starting in 1975. Spent 32 years there until his retirement. In his Wolves baseball team, they won 500 games, multiple league championships, 3 North Coast section championships. Rick, you coached numerous professional baseball players that made the minors and some very well-known players that made the MLBs. You moved on to coach at other well-known schools like De La Salle, Athenian. You kept coaching and coaching. In 1988, you won the NCS Coach of the Year honor for all of baseball. And in 2000, you were chosen the National Coach of the Year by the American Baseball Coaches Association. And then your career moved on. Listen to this. Talk about experts, guys. Rick, you then coached. You left the U.S., you took your family, and you coached in England. I remember because you and your son, Andy, who I was very close with, I really enjoyed Andy a lot. You guys left for a year and you coached professional men in England. You also coached professional head coach teams, the national teams of Ireland, Belgium, Switzerland. You've coached in Belarus, Austria, Croatia, Slovakia. And you live in Concord, California. Quite a resume, Rick. Glad you're with us.
Wow, that is a
Very
resume.
blessed, and thanks for having me. Been
But
very blessed. As Jimmy Ray Hart used to say, baseball been very, very good to me.
yes, he has. But there's also one very important team that you didn't mention on your fancy resume, Rick. You
Uh oh.
coached the boys basketball team of St. Francis of Assisi School, and you had a starting center named Sean Donohue on your team, and you were my head coach, my first true basketball coach, and you were an amazing coach. You helped me fall in love with the game, and we won the whole championship, Rick. Our pictures are in the gym.
First time ever for that church.
We have a picture in a gym, Jordan, with gold chains around our necks. We won the whole thing under Rick's coaching.
Well, I mean, there's something about like a good coach. You make movies about it, right? Coach Carter, there's a bunch of coach movies out there where it's like a secondary father figure. You know, it's like someone who can help. I just saw a clip from University of Alabama, their football team, and the coach, basically the reporters said, okay, you guys can leave. We're done talking to you. And the coach sat him back down and said, no, I want to tell you how much these boys are important to this team. And it's almost like some of these kids maybe don't have dads in their lives, and their coach becomes that father figure.
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes. And Rick knows.
I think we have to keep that in perspective too as coaches. You know, it's not about winning, but it's how you get there and what you develop from that, from the successes. You know, that's what we can't lose perspective as a coach.
Rick is going to share some very special things with us today, parents. You really want to tune in to listen to this wisdom. Share this with someone who needs to hear this episode, and we're gonna really give y'all some tips and some tools from a legend. In fact, he's such a legend that the baseball field at this high school is called the Rick Steen Field. And in fact, if this name sounds familiar to you, then go back to episode 1 of the Sean Donohue Show.
That's
and
right.
This is the coach that I was talking about, who took me out to Jack in the Box after I freaking burned the field down, and was a father figure for me in my life. And I'm going to tell a couple other stories. But Rick, Jordan, we've got a problem here. We've got a pretty serious problem. Some of these parents are real bozos. They're real dummies. They're idiots. They're so selfish. They're losing their temper. They're putting their own egos upon their children. They're grabbing face masks of kids playing Pop Warner, and they're cussing at them in their faces. They're shaming their kid after a freshman lacrosse game. They're telling their kids they're being lazy and they're never going to be successful in life because they did not do well at their JV baseball game. What the hell is going on with parents? And I'm sorry I'm a little upset about this, but this is a serious topic. We've got to really address this. Rick, tell us some thoughts about what's coming to mind for you when you hear me talk like this.
Well, I think it's a shame, and I think a lot of this errors in parenting comes from the number one thing. We forget it's their playing experience, not yours. And I think sometimes either number one, we're frustrated the fact that we didn't excel as the way we thought we could have, or we respected to, or number two, we never played a sport and we don't know how to act as that parent or how to support our son or daughter in their endeavors. And obviously, number three, we don't understand the fact that most sports are for number one, enjoyment, and number two, it's a means to an end. It's a life lesson. You learn how to fail and bounce back up. You learn how to work with other people. You learn how to be humble. You learn how to take direction. You learn how to maybe take direction from people you don't respect or don't really appreciate, don't like. But you know you've got to get through this season, this week, this year. And that's the lesson we learn. It's the means to an end, not the end.
Yeah, it's the journey, right? Not the destination. You know, Rick, I'm going to ask you a question, but first, kind of reflecting over this last weekend, took my son to his basketball game, and I was just kind of noticing one of the coaches. It's just 3-on-3 basketball right now. It's not even in season. It's kind of off season stuff.
9-year-old kids.
Fun. Yes. And the coach and the boys crying, the coach is yelling at him. I found out it's the boy's father, and the relationship. And I was like, I can't believe this happened. And then they started yelling at the referee. And after the game, I had to go up to the referee and I'd be like, hey, man, don't let those guys bother you. This is just 3 and he's like, oh, man, I've seen much worse. This is no big deal. No problem. Thank you for coming up and saying something to me, though, because all these parents, man. So my question to you is, have you ever had to, like, take a parent and give them a reality check in your career?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can think of one situation back in the late 80s. And what happened was that the kid, you know, as a junior, he was a pitcher. And he would come in, and if his dad was there, his dad would be in the stands. His dad would be, you could hear the voice. and the kid couldn't find home plate. I mean, home plate could have been 3 feet wide instead of 11 inches, and he couldn't find home plate.
So he's
17 inches.
pitching the ball and it's not going near the plate at all.
He
He's
has no
like
control.
no
So
control on the
consequently,
baseball.
I found the correlation between his dad being there or not, and then asked his dad. I said, I'll just call him Mr. Jones because I don't want to indict anybody. Mr. Jones, your son's really struggles with you sitting where you are. If perhaps you could just be quiet and be respectful. I mean, so that was the first thing. Well, anyway, ended up 4 talks with the dad later that you have one last chance. That is, stand behind center field when your son's pitching. Don't shout. Realize and appreciate the difference in his performance when you're out there. And then if you can't do that, then I'm going to have you escorted off the field by school administration, or perhaps go further than that. And right then and there was a difference in the kid's performance.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what you're doing there is like you're the child's advocate, but you're also like their translator. You're also like the peacemaker. It's like you're standing in the gap saying, hey, I could read your son's body language. He's not using the English language because he's young. He can't communicate this to you. But I know your son. I care about him. I care about you. Let me speak. Let me have the courage to speak up. It's like you're parenting the parent.
Let me be his voice. And you have to voice. It's a slippery slope because all of a sudden dad says, well, how do you know that? You talk to him? I said, no, I can see it. Well, actually, you have to tell a little bit of a fib because, the kid talked to me, but I'm not going to throw the kid under the bus. I mean, he's got to live with the dad.
Yeah.
And so I say, well, no, I can just read this. I've taken classes in this, who knows whether it did or not. I probably did. I mean, but I just kind of took the hit for him saying, no, I can read this and I can see the difference in his performance. You should too. Ask your wife. Don't ask your son.
Oh, there you go. Tell us a quick story of an athlete that you coached that you thought, this kid really could play D1 or maybe even make the pros. This kid has got it. But then something wacky happened between, this athlete, her and her parents, or him and his parents. And you just saw like the love of the game, where you saw the performance. You just saw like everything went downhill, and this kid never like lost the love of the game or never made it to the heights that you thought they could have made.
I can think of one specifically. I can think of a number of them, but this one is specifically because there was a time when my daughter was 12 and my son was 8 or 9, like 8 years old. So it basically was a lesson of parenting for me. I had to dismiss this kid from the team for an off-season prank that he violated our code of conduct for the baseball team. So, and he signed a contract, for the year. It was bad enough at a basketball game where he'd done something that was possibly damaging to a persons or a gym or all the above. Anyway, so we had the parent conference, where you come into the administration, the kid tells a story, the parent tells a story, the coach tells a story, and then they come to a decision. Well, number one, the decision's already made in my book because they signed a contract. I wasn't the type of person that I had already reviewed my team restrictions and rules.
Well, that tells you a lot about yourself right there, and about great coaching, that you have a code of conduct, morals. Like, this is a privilege to be on this team. It's not just about what you do, on the baseball field between these hours. Like, please, I love that. Please continue.
It's life's lessons, right? So anyway, it came to the point, and it came to the point where the kid was talking, which was subject number 1, and then we get to the dad, subject number 2. And talking, the kid was just saying, almost in tears, and he was kind of a big bully type kid, young kid, and kind of a bully type kid. But anyway, it came to a point where he says, Dad, almost in tears, you set the goals, the bar so high that I just kind of do. Now I'm just kind of out of control. I don't enjoy playing anymore. That's why I did what I did at the basketball game. I can't ever live up to your expectations. Once I achieve one goal, you set another one. I just can't. I can't continue like this. Well, at that particular point, I wanted to slither out there on my stomach and figure, okay, you guys figure this out. But I, obviously stayed for the thing and then told my story and kind of tempered it a little bit. Basically, it was a black and white situation. But at that point right there, I realized that you can be your kids, and I always say boy because I coach baseball and football and soccer, but it's your athlete.
But anybody. Yeah.
You can be your athlete's advocate, but there's a time and a place, number 1, and number 2, you've got to be their parent and their support and their counselor first.
Oh,
I always say I always say, and again, I'll slide this in, and I'm going to read it so I get it right, don't trip over my words. But parenting is the hardest profession requiring the most skill, the highest degree of risk reward, with the least amount of training.
Amen to that. Ain't that the truth?
Ah, so good.
And you think back, and any job you have, at least you know how to get into it.
Yeah.
Basically, when you're parenting, you're going on what you learned from your own parents, or what you did not learn from your own parents, or what you learned you didn't want to be from your own parents.
Yeah.
And that's no way to get
So
education.
good. It sounds like our podcast. What he's saying, Jordan.
Yeah.
It's like what we talk about. Jordan and Rick, let me ask you guys both a question. I like to say this. I say that parenting for most of us is the most emotional thing we'll ever do. So Jordan, you saw this dad acting out at a 9-year-old 3-on-3 game, right? So like, why do these parents do this? Why do they get so emotional and act out? And if you got to imagine, if they're doing that in public at the basketball court, what are they doing behind closed doors?
Right.
What's your theory, your guesses from your observation? You know, we've got 2 generation of dads right here with Rick and our generation. Jordan, what do you think, man? Cue us
I
up.
think we're putting the value in the wrong thing. So what we have done is we are thinking that winning is the most important thing of that moment. And so we want everything to happen correctly. We want our kids to make the basket, to pass it properly, to do anything they can possible to score the points to win the game. And so we're putting the value as winning rather than what the value should be, and that is effort. Like one of the things that Curtis was saying when he was kind of talking to me about this whole idea is we need to be praising the kids on effort and not on the winning aspect, because ultimately you're going to fail more often than not. As you get older, things get harder. You can't keep winning to make your parents happy. That's not a thing. You need to know that your parents are going to appreciate how hard you tried, no matter win or lose.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to change our mindset. But in the case of this coach/father, is he was a coach/father, and that's hard. And so, Rick, you could talk about from the coaching's perspective, you do want to win. This is your team. You want to see them win. From a parent's perspective, I want to make sure that they're given 110%.
Right.
Yeah.
But then again, you put the emphasis on the means to the end, how what it takes to get there, and the lessons you learn from it. And you just hit the nail on the head there, Jordan, where you learn to deal with failure, because athletics is a lot of dealing with failure. Life is dealing with failure. Yeah. And you've got to be able to, number one, rebound from that, or number two, mask that to a point where you can still function. And when these parents yelling at the umpire, yelling at the coach, or all the above, they're not being setting good examples for their own kids.
I got to give a shout out right now. What is it? It's either Oklahoma State or University of Oklahoma, the female softball championships. They're what are there 60-something games in a row of winning? Like, Oklahoma. It's amazing. But I almost, like, after what Rick says, feels bad. Like, they have won so much, they haven't really got a loss. And so when they get that first loss, it's going to be terrible.
Oh my gosh! Here, you know what? I was really, your friend Curtis left you a voicemail. I was very impressed with it. What I'm about to say right here, I think is a really important and needed contribution to this conversation, because there's people listening to this right now and they're thinking, I don't relate. I don't understand why these parents, especially dads, they get so wild. They get so weird. I don't understand it. It's weird. It's like, let me help you understand this, is that Curtis helped us understand that he coined it a high achieving parent. Now, I work with a lot of high achievers in my profession. So parents come to me and they want parenting tips and tools for one-on-one sessions. And some of these men and women, you guys, are very, very high achievers. I mean, they're CEOs, they're famous people. They push themselves. They are inventors. They are vice presidents. And they listen to podcasts. They listen to self-improvement episodes. You guys with me? You guys think of people like that? I mean, 100%. You're actually both those people, right? You're both high achievers, right? I mean, you both achieved a lot in your career. And so imagine let's talk about the challenges, the perks, the pros and cons of being a high achieving parent who has a child in sports. That's like a mind game right there, you guys. That's a freaking mind game. It's an emotional challenge and a mind game. So partly why we're making this episode is for that parent. So tell us your thoughts on that.
Rick, you can
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Start, Jordan. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna actually listen to what you had to say.
Well, basically, I think at that particular point in time, you've got to kind of go back in time. How did you achieve what you achieved?
Right.
How did you get there? And most people are not going to admit it was given to them. So consequently, they're going to find a point where they had to scrap, not beg, borrow, and steal, but they had to get down in the dirt and grind, like you said earlier, to get where they are.
Yeah.
And that in some of these, like the acronyms I have that I've written down, or some things I've written that I approached with my parents, because we always had a parent meeting at the beginning of the year. We talked about these things. But they have to get back to the point where it says, okay, they got there by number one, being a hard worker, by number two, being a good listener, so picking up on cues from other people.
Oh.
Number three, being accountable,
Mm-hmm.
being responsible.
Mm-hmm.
But the situation is, as a parent, then you've got to act the way you want your son to see you act, the way you want him or her to be, or your son or daughter, like that. So you can't be eating the stands. You can't be yelling at an umpire, yelling at the coach.
So what I hear you saying is this. What I hear you saying, I want to make sure I hear it. Is like the message is, look, if you're a high achiever, you didn't get there by accident. You made wise choices over a period of time, and you manage your emotions wisely to achieve success, consistent. So what I hear you saying, and I want to make sure I'm not putting your words in your mouth, is you want to help parents understand you've got to channel that into parenting, like making wise choices. Wise emotional choices on a regular basis as a parent.
Correct, Sean. And like I said, the number one, a couple of things I think, like listening to people. I think listening is one of the best skills that we under teach. We're not good listeners, especially people my age. They can't hardly wait to tell their story. But number two, you have to the means to the end. How did you get there? That's where the education becomes. That's where the success is. You can earn $350,000 a year, but are you really happy with yourself?
Right.
But you're happy because the impact you have on people, the people especially close to you, your son, daughter, wife.
Yeah.
And I think it's important for these high achievers to remember that, like, their child isn't going to have the same passions as they have. If you are an expert in a certain field, and you think your kid is going to be an expert in that field just because you are, that kid might not have the same desires. And I'm like thinking of like athletes. Yeah. So like I grew up on a football field. We had a professional athlete as one of our coaches.
Oh yeah.
And he was very good. I mean, he went to the Super Bowl. I don't have to say who he is, but he put so much stress on his son to be the best player because it was like his name being passed down, and he wanted to make sure that his son could represent his name well. And the reality is his son was playing football, but that wasn't where his son's passion was. His son has a different passion. Oh. But I think it's important for these high achievers to realize that and figure that out. Yeah. Because unfortunately, we're beating our kids down, trying to get them to where we were when they don't even want to be there.
Okay, I'm going to ask you both the personal question. Okay, I'm jumping in. Now, you do not need to answer this question. You guys are both high achievers. You both excelled in sports. Obviously, Jordan didn't play in college or anything, but you were a really good high school football
definitely
receiver.
Like a C- D+ player.
You were a starter. That's not true. I was an average to below average player. You guys were not.
I took it pass fail.
But you both have children and grandchildren, and you've been there. You've lived it. You've seen your kids or grandkids struggle with coaches, not push themselves as hard as you want them to push themselves. Be more whiny than you would have preferred. Be more complainy. Be less skilled. Fail more. And be honest with us. That's hard for you, isn't it? That's hard for you. Don't be lying and say it's not hard to you. Is it hard for you? How have you managed it? How are you managing it?
I think for me, it's the effort. I just want to make sure that they're putting forward an effort and then that they try.
Okay,
so that's the only thing.
All right, I'm playing devil advocate, but I'm being okay. But why? What if they want to put the effort? What if their number one priority is fun? What if it's fun? They're 9. And they're playing T-ball or 3-on-3.
Great.
Your number priority is effort, is what I'm saying this episode. But what if that's not their priority? What if he's a junior in high school and he's on varsity, or she, and it's not about effort for her. It's just about fun and being with friends.
as long as this kid, which would be my kid in this situation, goes to practice, is there on time, is being responsible, and is showing a love for the sport, I don't care. They can have fun all day. But it's when they're like, oh, I don't want to go. I'm going to skip. I don't really care. That's when I'm going to have a problem. And that right now
That's
at
when you're
9,
gonna-
I'm trying to figure out what they have a passion for so that as they get older, they'll be there for themselves. They'll wake up early for themselves,
Now,
want to go to practice.
That's when you have a problem. Are you talking about? That's when you're going to have an emotional problem.
Yes, that's correct.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's what
Because that's what we say as
problem.
men. I'm gonna have a problem
Yeah.
with that. But you know
Right.
what we're actually talking about is you're gonna have a hard time with your emotions, just like this coach who was raging at a referee at a 3-on-3 game. What a dummy, man.
Yeah.
Rich, isn't that what we're talking about? It's an emotional problem. Tell me your thoughts, your answer to my question, and then if it's okay with you, I'm gonna pick on your answer a little bit too.
You asking Jordan that, or can I just tell?
Please tell us, and I'll re-ask it. Yeah.
Okay, it's kind of funny because I had I had a daughter and a son, very very blessed, great kids. My daughter was talented; she's a sweetheart, talented, but she would try something and then say, "Okay, I don't like this anymore."
Oh.
But the household rules were: you started this sport, you started this soccer, you started cheerleading, you started dance.
Yeah.
You're going to complete it. You're
Correct.
doing all the practices. You're going to give it its best shot. Then at the end of its tenure, that's when you can quit. But you're not quitting before that. And to this day, she remembers that. And to her defense, she must have tried about 8 different things.
Wow.
And she's talented, but she just didn't. She completed it and just didn't pursue it.
That must have been a little hard though, because you're a huge jock sports and your wife is a professional, like teacher, athlete, coach, trainer type thing. So that must have been a little bit hard for both of you to see your daughter just like, bounce around and want to quit things like that, right?
It was, Sean, but I tell you, the reward was seeing the fact that she was okay with that. And the fact that the lesson she learned was, okay, I picked this, I'm going to complete it. I'm going to every practice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. So that was the reward from that.
Follow-up question. I wonder if it was hard for
son.
your daughter or your son having 2 parents who are so well known for sports and having a dad who's kind of like a legend. I wonder what that was like for them to not reach those heights or to not love sports as much as their parents did.
Well, I think that my daughter, she respects what everything was going on. She respected the sport and she respected our love. Shoot, she was 12 years old and I was still playing rugby. So she had to sit through the 80 minutes of rugby. I was playing for the old Gales. And so she had to live it, and she had to watch on. She was looking at the whole time, I'm sure. So,
yeah.
But she never, to this day, she's an elementary school teacher and she teaches the same things that she learned. And I never really asked her. I said, was it hard, being the daughter of a coach who put all his time into in sport?
Yeah.
I never really asked her that, but then I had my son who was deep into baseball.
Yeah. Tell us, how did you handle it as a dad and now as a grandfather to see your children struggle in the everyday lives of the sports life? Because you're now a sideline parent and a grandparent. How's it been like for you?
Well, it was tough, watching my son play and not succeed. But the worst thing you do as a parent is show your emotions either verbally or physically in the stands, because they see that.
Yeah,
they do. They strike out and they look at the stands and they see your dad say, damn, that what he's going to say, or he gets up and walks out, or he's pacing. No pacer ever helped somebody swing at a third strike or something like that anyway. But with Andy, I just dropped the bomb there. But I'd always, first word out of my mouth was, did you have fun, son?
Oh, okay, hold on. Let's slow it down. First thing out of your mouth. This is now you're giving us tips.
Oh, sorry.
No, this is good.
Perfect.
This is what we're going to do. So
you're telling
us, Mr. Rick Steenfield, the first thing out of your mouth, tell us, what did you say and what should we say and why did you say this? Please tell us.
You know Andy, so I can verify this. So anyway, first thing out of my mouth, and he could have a horrendous day, and I knew what a horrendous day. Hell, you play the sport, you coach the sport, you know what a bad day is or a good day is. And I say, son, did you have fun? He said, well, yeah, I did. Well, what part of it was fun? Well, that base hit in the second inning where I drove in a run was fun kind of made that great catch. It was really fun. And then if there was something to correct or something that you wanted to say, I said, did something really bother you about the game? She says, yeah, well, I made that error. And I said, well, and how come you made it? He said, I don't think I was really concentrating. I wasn't watching the ball. Or, I just got messed up.
So I'm slowing it down. I interrupt people. So I don't know if you're listening, everybody, to the great Rick Steen. First things out of his mouth, Jordan, you know what he's doing? Is he's asking questions.
And it's you're right.
These are all questions.
Did you have fun? Okay, so as you were saying this, I was wondering, and this is a question for both of you, if you had a response that was like, it was okay, but you knew as a parent that they were having fun, how should we take that as parents? Just brush it off?
I think I'd dive further and say, why was it just okay, son? Why
Okay.
was it
More questions.
Could it be,
Okay.
Could it be, how could you have made it better?
Okay.
Put the ball in his court.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is good. We've got a really special thing that Rick's going to share with us in about 5 minutes. Really special. Rick, tell us more about what can we say to our kids, when we pick them up from practice or post game. And let me jump in. One of the things why I'm not leading this podcast, because I don't have knowledge. I did coach my daughter in 2 years of basketball. And let me tell you, wow, she scored 0 points the first year of basketball. And guess how many points she scored the second year? Same amount, y'all. 0 points. This amazing 18-year-old young woman is such a strong woman. The girl didn't score one freaking basket. And for 2 years, and then she was like, "I've had enough, Dad. I've had enough." But one thing I've liked is I love this. Here's a tip from me. I don't have a lot of tips to offer today, everybody. Hey, I really enjoyed watching you today. What do you think about that, gentlemen?
Ooh, that's powerful.
Fantastic. That's fantastic.
I really enjoyed watching you today. I don't care if they try hard, if they didn't try hard. I don't care if they whine, temper tantrum, win, loss. It's a game. It's a game. Games are supposed to be fun.
I don't know about the wine temper tantrum, Sean. You might have to say something about that. But otherwise,
yeah, that might be a little harder to say. You're right. Right. Thanks for keeping me. That's a reality check. Yes. But you know what? I mean, it's about joy and enjoyment. Even like we're talking, even at the varsity level, most of these guys are girls and guys. They're not going to go on.
And you know what's critical about that, Sean, is that number one, we talk about your son or daughter's eligibility. 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, 2 years of youth league, whatever it's going to be. The parent, as a spectator, has that same eligibility. And you're wasting your time if you think you're going to sit there and dictate ideas into your kid's head, or you're going to criticize, or you're going to make the kid cry, or worse yet, make the kid dislike what you put him in there in the first place for.
Okay, we've got to sit on that point. Jordan, tell us your thoughts on what he just said. Make the kid dislike, not like a game, right? What are your thoughts on that, dude?
What do you mean? Like, break that down for me.
I mean that basically he's so miserable about trying to please his dad,
his parents,
parent in the stand.
It's not enjoyable anymore.
Him, number one, or please some adult. He's not playing for himself. He's not playing for the enjoyment of it. He's not appreciating the team concept of being there with friends, doing an activity they love to do.
Yeah. And I had several athletic friends that were on the teams that I were on that had that dad, and they were playing for their parents. And it was unfortunate because some of the people that I know who were doing that didn't do too well after high school. And I think the reality is maybe us parents need to stop thinking college right away and thinking that our 6-year-old that can dribble between the legs is going straight to college. So therefore I got to push them, and just think like, hey, have fun with this. Let's just get you through this year and keep developing and getting stronger. And then if you get to college, great. But if not, great. Because if we put that bar so high, it's tough to get a scholarship. And then I feel bad for all these athletic kids, in college playing these sports that they've been playing for a decade or longer, are now about to graduate college. And they're like, I guess I'm supposed to try to go pro. But the reality of people who go pro is so tiny. Then they're like, what do I do with my life? You got to make sure that these kids are balanced so they have other passions too, so they don't get lost.
Precisely. You hit the nail right on the head.
Can I tell you guys a story, and I want to see how you react?
Sean wanted to be a professional basketball player, and he got lost. He didn't know what he was supposed to do.
His daughter outscored him.
His daughter outscored him.
Here's a story. I didn't have that dad you're describing and that we've been describing in this entire episode. I didn't have that parent. My dad did not come to one of my high school basketball games, not one. He lived in about 500 miles away, but he'd never traveled down to one game from 7th through 12th grade. And I was a fine basketball player. Secondarily, I played with some really good basketball players, guys that did go to D1. And I lost the love of the game my junior year because of the coaching. It was not fun being an average player with some stars. I just wish that somebody had come up to me and said, hey, Sean, you're like a really good player. You're one of the best in the whole school. You're on the varsity team. Like, you have a lot of skills. You're just not as good as these other 4 guys. But just have fun out there. Like, don't take it too seriously. You're not playing in college. This isn't a job. You're at Rancho Bernardo High School. This is just for fun. And just have fun with it. I never had a parent or a coach just like ever say that to me. And if somebody did, I think I would have been a lot better. And I don't think I would have quit and then go play. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think about my story? It's like we talked about over-parenting, but I think maybe this is a story of under-parenting. I don't know.
Well, just like you said, without saying anything, without even being there, with being 500 miles away, he sent you a great message about your development as a young man, not, appearing to the fact. And I'm sure, knowing most dads, trying to be a dad, is that he doesn't want that picture. He didn't want that translation, but that's what he unspokenly told you.
Right.
I'm not interested, son. Just do your own thing. I got better things to do than watch you play. And that's not right, number one. And number two, you talk about the coach, the things that the coach's obligation to the player too is to communicate, to tell them, hey, you don't score 17 points a game, but you're the adhesive that holds this team together. You're the guy that people look up to because you are out there busting your tail, 43 minutes a game or whatever it's going to be like that. And you're scraping for the ball to feed us and making this team click. Well, you're the guy that we have to practice hard against because in practice, you are a madman.
Mm-hmm.
You're all over the ball. You're making us better in practice.
Pointing out, finding ways.
To compliment your team players.
Yeah. Yes.
So, Sean, with that experience, did you get that fatherly experience through your coach somehow?
No.
You were looking for approval from your coach because you didn't get approval from your dad?
I didn't even think about it. Looking back now, I do not think I did not get fatherly approval. I did not get fatherly presence. I did get fatherly coaching or emotion coaching, and I didn't get that from any of my sports coaches. I just think that I think I had so much potential, and I think I really would have blossomed as an athlete because if I had a little bit of it, a little bit nurturing from a man or a woman in my life in that area,
Yeah.
But
well, Rick, I know you've got some tips for us on how we can all be better at this because a lot of parents can probably relate right now. So what's the best advice for us?
Well, I got a short one. I have a couple of acronyms here, and actually we talked about this earlier, but I have one that I like to expound on, and it's short. It's called "How do you obtain a BA in parenting?" BA like a Bachelor of Arts, like a degree.
Yeah.
How do you obtain an advanced degree in parenting? And I say a BA because they all start with the word BE. So the first one is be attentive. Look for trouble signs and temper the extremes. And by that, look for ways that your kid's trying to beg out of going to practice or shy away. Look for physical situations where the young man or young lady is just basically not looking like she or he are not having fun.
Good.
The second was be around. And Sean just alluded to that. Be supportive, but not hovering. Don't be the helicopter parent where you're on top of everything. You got to question the coach, question what's going on.
If you're hovering, you are not thriving in the emotions of being a great, wise, sideline parent. That is a sign. We've got to know the difference between supportive and hovering. Well said.
Right. Third one is be assuring. Counsel, but let them be their own advocate. Don't do it for them. Just counsel them in their failures or successes. And the
Counseling.
next one is be allowing. Let them take risks and help them when they fail. Teach them how to be successful out of their failures. And that's the reward out of failing.
Yeah.
Because you're going to fail. It's just how you adapt to it. So be allowing. Be there for them. The next one is be accountable. Make sure that your words are in line with your actions. So if you promise something to your son or you tell them to do something like this, you're there to back them up, and you're there to make sure that what they're saying does come true.
Yeah.
So, and the last one is be an example. And this is what we're talking about. Give them a close and positive reference for life. So
That's beautiful.
That was
really good.
My wife was a collegiate cheerleader, and she did cheerleading in high school. She did cheerleading in college, and so I could hear her in my ear right now saying we should add one to your list, and it's be aggressive, be aggressive, BEAGGRISSIVE.
That's good. That's the sport we should have mentioned too, because I mean the D1 cheerleading, that is serious stuff. Some of these high schoolers, guys and girls, their cheerleading is intense. I mean, it is amazing to watch. I like to just say when my addition to this is not an addition, is when you say be around, supportive, that's when I really hear that listening, because you've mentioned listening 3 times. I mean, that's listening. How did you have fun? I mean, that question right there, it says everything. It says, what is the top priority here? Did you have fun today? I mean, because I think a sports coach like you probably could have really screwed your kids up big time, Rick, big time. I mean, you're a legendary coach. You coach international. You could have really soured your kids on the game, but by asking them, "Did you have fun?" It says everything about what are we doing here, right?
Well, I think at the end of the day, and I said this as a coach, that when you left practice on Friday and they came in on Monday, you wanted them to love the game as much or more than you did. And if you did something or said something else to cause that to come to fruition, then you better look yourself in the mirror and figure out, hey, what am I doing to not make this fun for the kids and not make these kids love this game more than I do?
What if you're a coach, whether you coach Little League or you coach girls basketball or you coach cheerleading, I hope you are listening to the wisdom of Coach Rick Steen right now, because I hope you're hearing a lot of emotional intelligence in his vibe. We've barely talked about like the ins and outs of the game. I got this message from this man from Tanzania, and he sent a message to me. He's coaching his kids in sports, and he had to go to this coaching mandated program before he was able to coach his kids in sports. It's like a new thing that they have to do. It's not new, where they coach. They're giving these Little League coaches some tips, and it's really all about emotion coaching, about high level. And what they said to him is, look, this is not about hockey. This is not about putting the puck in the net. It has nothing to do with soccer or kicking goals. The kids will figure that out on their own. What coaching is really about presence, about connection, and just showing up as the caring adult. Do you agree with that, gentlemen?
Yes,
I do 100%. One of the things I was going to say from a parent's perspective too, that we've started doing is, some of us who have bigger families, we've got, our youngest, as a child with special needs. And so sometimes like our kids will have sporting activities and we both can't go because one of us has to stay back. So we've done a couple of things. Number one, we'll ask them, hey, who do you want to be there? Do you want your mommy or your daddy to be there? And it's so funny to listen to their response, because on some sports they want their mom.
Really?
Because they're like, Mom, you're a better cheerleader when I do this. And then some sports are like, no, I want dad there because dad supports me with this. And so it's really cool to hear their perspective. And then sometimes we'll get a sitter and we'll both go, but it's really fun to do that.
That's cool, Jordan.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's neat.
As we all know, as the kids get older, like in the varsity level or in their private sessions, it's really about some of the tangibles, the do's and don'ts. But so much of parenting from the sidelines or coaching is about the heart. It's about how do we manage our emotions. And Rick, you wrote a poem for parents. that was shared and has been shared on other publications, would you be open to sharing your poem with us?
Sure, but I don't know it by heart.
That's
Okay,
okay.
read it to us.
Okay. It's called The Fan in the Mirror, taken after The Man in the Mirror back when I wrote this 30 years ago. I think it was like a movie or something like that. So it's called The Fan in the Mirror. It's time to reward the fan in the mirror who comes to the game with intent to cheer, for he knows that the game that is played on the field is a sample of life and the dividends it yields. The fan in the mirror comes to the game, supports the team, and knows all players by name. He appreciates the effort, the enthusiasm, and the failures of his son, and judges the results by not only who has won. The fan in the mirror doesn't criticize when play is bad, for he knows not which neighbor might be the dad. And later during game time, it would be his turn to care, for there's a very good chance that his son, too, will err. As the fan in the mirror watches the game action and becomes aware of the grumbling faction, reminds the dissenters of undermining team goals as they drag team members over hot coals.
For hot calls.
For the fan in the mirror, he stays in the stands, doesn't approach the coach to make his demands.
No, he doesn't.
Boy, on the field, the pressure is enough, but an overcritical parent can make it really tough. The fan in the mirror knows the real score. He supports his son as he walks in the door. Strikeout, error, great play, home run. The game was successful if the player had fun. The fan in the mirror goes home a happy man, for he knows that he has done all that he can to support his son and friends in their endeavor to create experiences and memories that will be life forever. The game is over, and the players have gone home. Your feet have stopped moving as your mind still roams. As memory and thoughts have replaced the bleacher cheer, can you look at yourself as a fan in the mirror?
That's so good. That's really good. I can't believe you created that.
I can't believe it either at this age. So.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Can you look at
Well,
yourself as the fan in the mirror?
The reality is this is going to be over, before we know it. So enjoy the journey, because it's not about the destination. Ultimately, we're just trying to create beautiful human beings, whether they play sports in the future or not.
Right, precisely.
So Jordan, Rick sent me over this cool document. He's got an acronym that for the word parent. And Rick, how about we close the last part of our show and we chat about the word parent and how we can best, this is the podcast to really support parents in the emotions of parenting on the sidelines. And we just tell us your word that starts with P, and then Jordan and I will just kind of maybe comment on each of the ones that you share. Is that okay?
Okay.
All right.
So acronyms basically are to remember things. You have an acronym, so when you were a kid, so you could remember the noun verbs, or you could remember the multiplication tables or something. So this one here is called parent. So you can remember what's the best qualities of a parent. And for the letter P, I represent that letter by saying proud. And I don't know if you want me to go through what I wrote of proud, like proud of your family and the values of your son and your son's involvement and in the son's choice of sport.
Jordan Curtis.
And we need to be verbal about that, right?
Verbal, yes.
Yes.
And
Right.
Jordan Curtis, your buddy, he emphasized like a growth mindset over a fixed mindset, and just proud of their efforts, right? Not so much the results, right? Do you, what's your thoughts on that, Jordan, about how do we praise our kids' efforts?
Right. I'm proud of the way you played today. And I know you didn't get the win, but man, you really showed, you gave it your all. And that's all we can ask for. But I think what Rick was talking about is, we need to say that.
Yeah.
Now, there are times I realize I'm like, man, you did so good today, but I have used it, but I'm saying sometimes I don't use the word like, man, I'm really proud of you. I'm just like, man, you did so good, but I should say proud more often.
Even if the kid plays horrible, their team loses, hey, I know it was a tough game, but I really enjoyed watching you, and I'm just really proud of how you're handling this loss.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
I know this is hard. We don't need to talk about it if you don't want to. Let's go get a Subway sandwich, and then we'll clean up. Right?
Beautiful.
P for proud. A for accountable. Tell us about that.
So accountable is that your actions as a parent are aligned with your words. So you're saying something that you're going to be doing this. That is, I just love sitting in the stands and watching you play. Well, sitting
Ooh.
in the stands and watching are two good verbs right there that you have to align your action with words. Awareness of reactions to actions. Am I the guy that stalks out the field and I go sit in the parking lot because my son struck out or made an error? And the other one is your actions speak volumes. I think we're all
Mm.
actions speak louder than words, but your action speaks volumes. And like I said earlier, your kid sees what goes on in the stands. I mean, for some reason they're dragging their bat back to the dugout or they're
Mm-hmm.
hustling after the inning over and they made a mistake. They look in the stands and they see the fact, oh, there's that empty seat, or geez, there's my dad's talking around again. So,
On
Gosh.
the phone. He's on the phone.
yeah.
She's, doing the, yeah, I get it.
Jordan, listening to Rick, he's an incredible communicator, but you can just tell his emotional intelligence is extremely high, right? So it kind of makes sense why he was so successful and has so many wins and decorations. And he knew how to probably adapt his coaching style and his communication style to every player. You feeling that, Jordan?
Yeah. No, and I mean it's really cool to have a coach like that, and every one of us who have played any kind of sport, or maybe we've had a teacher, we know that there are those that stand out above others. And what you're saying is Rick was one of those standouts for
And
sure.
dude, that man kept me accountable. I had a story. It just popped up. I rode my new Trek mountain bike into the basketball gym when I was in 6th grade. And I was driving it in the gym. And I was speeding around. And I guess what this idiot did? I was such a dumb kid back then. I skid out on my new bike. And I left a
Oh
black
yeah.
mark on the gym. And I don't know what happened. I got a feeling, though, Mr. Coach Rick Steen, he tore me up. He was like, "What are you doing?" And that's when you're a good coach and you're so calm and loving and caring. You can scold your players when you
Right.
want. He just told
Sure.
me to get the hell out of the gym, clean that mark up, and don't ever do that again. You said that. I wish in heaven we're going to be able to go back in time to watch cool scenes of our life. I
Yeah.
hope. I want to see that scene.
The
Right?
key word that was after you had the soap and the mop in hand cleaned up the mark. I wanted to be sure you cleaned up that
Yeah,
mark.
you did clean it up, Sean. That's
Well,
good.
yeah, because you kept me accountable and you
Right.
parented me, and I should not have been doing that. And I was just being a show off and being a dummy. Let's go back to parent. PAR. R is for responsible. Like,
So help the program for the sake of all, not just for your kid. So too. So your son's not starting or he's not playing that day, your daughter. So you don't show up, you don't go to the game because they're not. No, be there for all the kids' sake.
yeah.
Not prone to embarrass. Don't comment because somebody else's daughter or son, was wild that day or made a couple errors in the field. I mean, nobody feels it more, or secondly more than the kid themselves and the parents of the person. So don't make a big deal about that because you're going to be in that seat too. Know the difference between interfering and interceding in some situations as far as a relationship between a kid and his coach
Oh, that's
or,
good.
or a young player and their teammate, something like that. Coach them as to how to solve the differences or where to go for help. But don't sit there and phone the parent yourself or interfere with the coach.
That's good.
Yeah, we need to be supportive, right? Even if
Right.
our kids are on the bench, be supportive. Celebrate
Interfering.
everybody else's achievements too.
Yeah, interfering. That's going to be tough for some parents. The difference between interfering and interceding. P for proud, A for accountable, R for responsible, E for enthusiastic.
This is what Jordan talked about earlier as far as being proud to watch them play. React from the heart as a regular fan and appreciate that. Your 3 years of eligibility as a Babe Ruth parent, your 4 years of eligibility as a high school parent, your 3 years of eligibility, or 4 years as a college. React from the heart with a genuine positive approach. If you have a criticism to make sure you shroud it and you precede
Yeah.
it with some compliments.
It must be a mind game for some of these kids because their parent is watching a sports on the TV and they're cheering, "Yeah, let's go. Yeah." And then they don't do that. They're not enthusiastic when they watch their own kid. Maybe because they're
Yeah.
afraid of being judged or they don't want to look weird. I don't know. Like, be the cheerful, be a cheerleader, enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
Right, from the heart.
From the heart.
Ooh, I'm not surprised. And what it stands for. We're 3 grown men now are going to talk about a word that men do not often talk about. but we should talk about it. Rick wrote this decades ago, he said. So men were talking about it back then. And this is a great word. N for nurturing.
So help support your son in their success or their failure, specifically their failures, and keep all events in perspective as a means to the end product. And we've said that probably 7 or 8 times. I've heard you both say that keep this as perspective. It's not all about the wins. It's not all about the pro contract, but it is about how you're going to develop yourself to face life, to be successful in life as a participant in a particular sport.
Juicy question. Jordan, Rick, who is the most nurturing man that you know? Isn't that a weird question? Who is the most nurturing man you know? Think of a name, call him by his name, and tell me, what are you hearing or seeing from this man that leads you to feel like he is one of the most nurturing men that you know? I have to think of a man right now too, because it might be hard to think of an answer. And who is the most nurturing man that you know, guys? Tell me a name.
Captain Planet.
I don't know who that is.
Captain Planet? You don't know Captain Planet?
No, I don't. Is that a superhero?
Yeah,
No, man. I'm
Captain
looking
Planet,
for a real man.
He's our hero.
I'm looking for a real man.
The most nurturing man in my life.
Or that a friend or someone you've observed. I'm having a hard time thinking of one.
I have 2 that I think of, and I probably should have about 8 or 9.
Well, we should have 100. No, we should have 1,000.
Well, it takes a village to build a man too.
Right.
Not a kid, but to build a man. But I think of a priest that really was good for me and got me to convert to Catholicism.
A priest.
Father Ray or Father Vince. Father Vince is now living. He'll celebrate 40 years in ministry this Saturday.
Good answer.
And then I have a friend, Dale Miller, who's a golf. He's a tennis pro. Tennis professional out of Blackhawk, and just a good friend. Just got a way about him. Just got a way about him. Sit on his lap.
Sit on his lap?
260 pounds doesn't want that to happen.
No, but dude, that's the imagery. That's a great
like
imagery.
Santa Claus.
Like you want to sit on a man's lap because you feel safe. You want to sit on his lap. That's a brilliant word choice.
Funny. I don't know.
Oh my gosh,
it's just a weird image.
It's so weird.
It's an image. Thank you, Jordan. It's just an image.
No, it's great. No, like it's like this is the thing. Like I would like to believe that I'm much, much more nurturing to my children than my own dad was to me. I hope that us as men we are. This is one of the ways that fatherhood, masculinity has changed in the last 30 years. We're becoming more nurturing. We want to be more nurturing. It takes some time, takes some effort, takes some societal issues. Jordan, you got anybody in mind?
No, I can't. No, I don't. Nope, I can't.
That's the easy way out, Jordan.
No, I'm having a hard time too, Rick.
I mean, I could say my father. My father was nurturing. I mean, in definite ways, and he's been great. But like, when I think of nurturing, I just think of like you could give the biggest hug and just melt in this big burly guy's arms and like have him feel you'd feel like you're completely secure, like Sean was saying, and then also this person would stand up for you and protect you in a way. If someone were to attack you, they would be there for you. And I'm just like, man, guy, I don't know.
Gosh, isn't that why
That's the question, Sean.
We're having a hard time. What does that say about us or about men, that we're having a hard time thinking of a really nurturing man? Now, some of you might be saying, no, that's not a man's job to be nurturing. Yeah, actually it is. In fact, Rick Steen just said to be nurturing. And yes, that's what good parents do. We're nurturing, right? I mean, how you nurture, that is a bazillion different ways to nurture. I'm kind of pissed off right now, to be honest, with myself and with you, Jordan, that we can't think of anybody. Like what
anyone in our lives.
No, like what do we need to pause this episode right now? Because I'm kind of pissed.
Well, it's not a term you would use to describe a manly man. You wouldn't.
Well, plus it's not the reaction to a nurture is not real manly too. Is
correct.
Right, but Jordan,
when we think of the animal kingdom, who's the nurturer? It's the mama bear. That's the nurturer. You don't think of the father.
I think of you as a very nurturing person, Jordan. Like
Yeah, and when we look at it that way, I could see how that's the case. But if you were to ask like someone, it's just I don't know, dude.
like, yeah, man, like I don't think nurturing is one of your top 5 greatest strengths, Jordan, but like you've done some you're nurturing. Your wife, Danny, she's very nurturing, huh?
Right. And there's a lot of females I could throw out there in that
Yeah,
term.
yeah,
But
that's
for
it. Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
it's different.
Okay, I'm gonna think still. All right.
Okay,
N
let's
for
move on to the
nurturing
next one while
and
you keep
T,
thinking.
as we wrap up our episode, T for trusting, the psychology of trust. Trusting. Tell us about trusting.
So that comes with it. The coaches are doing what's best for the group, that your son is participating for the correct reasons, for fun and a passion. And also he's doing the best, coach is doing the best for your son individually and all the other individuals as a team. So it's not your place to go accost the coach over something that you perceive as wrong. It's not your place to accost the umpire. The umpire is doing the best they can to facilitate the game.
Mm.
So that would be the trust that these adults are doing their job.
Really good. Trusting is hard. The psychology of trust. How do you trust means how you, as a parent on the sideline, you're giving up power and you're trusting these other adults to do good things. That's scary because people want to be in control. I thought of somebody.
You thought of a nurturer?
One of my best friends in high school growing up, his name's Lance Hunter. He actually lives around the corner from me. We're not close now, but we're friends.
Oh, Lance is a total nurturer.
Great guy. And if I think
Yeah.
about nurturing, Lance is not going to touch you or hug you, but there's just a way about him. He is like, he might, give you like a bro hug or a 5 or something, but there's just like this amazing quality about this man that's just so positive and kind and accepting. It's like, it's just so good with his eyes, his body language. It's just like, you can't not like Lance Hunter. He's just so kind and positive to be around. He was like the glue of our friendship group growing up. We actually have matching tattoos. All of us bozos got matching tattoos when we were 18. Don't recommend that. But I don't know. Come on, Jordan. You got somebody?
Okay, I got one. Now that you said that, I'll give a shout out to my Uncle Ruben. He is a nurturer. He's a firefighter, but yet he's a guy's guy and a complete nurturer.
What is it about him? Like,
you feel comfortable, you feel safe. He will give you advice if you need it. He will send you warmth if you need it. He's a Christian. He's a godly man, and he just looks at life in a way that's happy and jovial.
Dude, the whole
and
package.
Wants you to do the same thing.
Alpha male fireman, and he's nurturing. Please tell me he has a dope fireman's mustache.
At one time he did. I don't know if he has it right now. I'd have to see.
Dude, Rick used to have a killer mustache. Mustaches are back in. Why is she rocking her mustache right now, my man?
Because I would look like I'm 105 rather than.
Oh yeah, dude. My wife says I look.
The old one I had, I could get away with because I look my age, but this would add about 30 years onto my age right now. So I don't need that, Sean. But thank you for complimenting me.
When I do public speaking, I tell your story and I tell about you. I tell you had that you had that Tom Selleck mustache vibe going on.
That's a good one,
dude. It's all downhill from Tom Selleck. But
Yosemite Sam.
Yeah,
Yosemite Sam.
Yeah, because if you see a fireman in the market, it's so obvious. Like you don't need. It's like so obvious you're a fireman. It's like have that handlebars. You know what I mean, guys? Yeah. I'm thankful for this episode that we can laugh and share stories, and we can share wisdom of being proud and accountable and responsible and enthusiastic and nurturing and trusting and be wise parents from the sideline. Let's end our episode with some attitudes of gratitude. Jordan, tell us some things you're thankful for today as we wrap it up.
I'm just thankful we could find a couple of guys that are nurturers out there. And I just want to give a big shout out to all those who feel like you fit that category and spread your love, amigos, because we need more guys out there that are nurturers.
I'm thankful for the sideline moms and dads who are doing the hard work of pushing their kids, but in a very wise, loving way. They're trying to coach them. Like my friend Rodney Worth, he posted this thing on his, he's got his son who's an excellent baseball player. He posted this thing on his Facebook, It's a little baseballism. It says, here's to the men that chalk up the fields and prep it before each game. Here's to the ones who throw BP despite severe arm pain. Here's to the guys that put balls in the tees and get their kids extra reps. Let's raise a glass to the bucket dwellers. In fact, let's all raise two. And thanks to the men who catch bullpens, dads, this is for you. So all the moms and dads that are really those sports parents that are thriving in that emotional place of wisdom that we heard Rick teach us to be, I'm thankful for you all. Rick, close our show up. What are you thankful for?
I'm thankful, and I give gratitude for the people that I was fortunate to surround myself with that made me a better person, made me listen and think and develop attitudes and be able to practice them amongst the many young men that I was fortunate to coach and counsel and be around.
Oh,
I'm really grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the opportunity now that you had me on the show to be able to share some of my experiences and my thoughts and things like this. It might help, maybe one, two, or 100 people out there. So I'm just gratitude for that. I'm grateful, not gratitude. I give gratitude and I'm grateful for it.
Good sports coaches change the world. Good parenting changes the world.